What's up, everyone, and welcome back to the Relentless Project. As martial artists, you know what it means to face an opponent who is bigger, faster, and stronger than you. But what do you do when the opponent trying to destroy you is your own body? My guest today knows the answer to that question intimately. Brigitte Morris is an entrepreneur, a 6th-degree black belt in ITF Taekwondo, and a global health advocate. But before she built an international brand, she was an 18-year-old honor student fighting for her life. She was diagnosed with severe autoimmune disease that led to failed treatments, agonizing pain, and major surgeries, including the complete removal of her large intestine. Just when she thought she was cured, the symptoms returned. She was re-diagnosed with Crohn's disease. She hit absolute rock bottom, breaking down on the floor of her apartment. But instead of staying down, she stood up, tapped into her martial arts discipline, and took absolute ownership of her healing. Through intense research and a specific carbohydrate diet, she completely reversed her symptoms to the point where her own doctors now ask her for advice to help other patients. Today, she and her husband run Mightyfist, an international martial arts brand. She was the first woman elected to the ITF USA Board of Directors. She wrote the global harassment policy to protect female athletes, and she just authored her new book, Boss Lady Brigitte. This is a conversation you're going to want to stick around for. Brigitte Morris, welcome to the Relentless Project.
You are now tuning in to the Relentless Project. Real people, real stories, real life.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
You're welcome. So you said you watched a few of the episodes before. You know what's the first question on every episode. How does it feel to hear someone else describe you?
I think the word I'll use is enlightening. And the reason I say that is because you have your own perception of yourself, and we see our own flaws and we understand what our strengths are. But it's like the saying, beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. And when you have somebody tell you something about yourself, you can choose to believe it or not, whether it's negative or positive. And I think like the biggest realization of that for me was when I was doing modeling, which I still do. Like you have your own insecurities kind of thing. And so when the photographer has done his pictures, some of them are very picky and some of them are like just they don't really care. So you're going to have people, some photographers that are going to give you like maybe like 3 pictures or 4 pictures of the 400 that you took. And some of them will give you like the whole raw footage. They don't really care. But I remember like when I would get the raw footage, I would pick the ones that I felt would be hiding my insecurities. Like, oh, like I don't like my thighs here. Like I think I have like a double chin here. And so I'm kind of orchestrating in a way that I feel I want others to see me based through my eyes. But when I would get photographers that would say, all right, here are the 3 best pictures. I remember going like, you think that's the best one? Like that one, I have a double chin. Like my thighs look like they're like, or whatever, my waist, I have like rolls. Like, and it really kind of made me realize that they are seeing it through their perspective of an artistic way. And so they think that this is the most beautiful thing of their work, so much so that they're willing to publish it. And like, you don't really go back to the artist and say, excuse me, like, I think you messed up a couple lines. Like you might want to add a couple more brushstrokes, like you don't really do that. Right. It's like, that's it. Right. And so, at first I was reluctant of posting them because I didn't like what I saw, but then I realized that this was art. And again, beauty's in the art, in the eyes of the beholder. And so I started to appreciate it, and it kind of helped me love myself in a like more understanding that like I'm not like a 2D version. I'm like not only like 3D, it's like 4D. Like I'm so much more than just matter. Like I'm matter, my brain. It's like there's so much more. And so I want to say enlightening because it helped me to unlock other versions of myself that I perhaps didn't choose to see based on my insecurities.
It's very interesting how that works, right? Like this photographer, this is their expertise. This is what they do
Yeah.
for a living. And then here we are, just the subjects of their art, and we're like, I'm not really a fan of this one. I dabbled. I'll use that very loosely in modeling way back when. So back when my daughter actually found one of those pictures, I don't know how, and it's her background on our conversation, and I'm so embarrassed by it. At the time, I was like, look at this photo. I thought I scrubbed it from the internet, but she found it. But it goes back to that. This photographer is like posing us and telling us what to do, and the whole time I'm like, I feel silly. I look silly the way he's telling me to stick out my chin, and I'm like, this is gonna look. And I see the photos, and I was like mortified. But then when he's explaining it, he like convinced me. I'm like, oh, these are actually very great. And then I was super proud of it. It's the same exact photo, same exact photo. And there's
Yeah.
days that I look this way and I feel great, and there's days I look this way and I don't feel great, and it's all our conception of ourselves.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting. So add modeling to your list of on your resume.
Yeah. I did some fashion week as well, like San Francisco Fashion Week. I've modeled for some international designers,
That's kind of huge.
recognized by Vogue. We've been published like in well, actually, some of my magazine covers and such. So
Look
yeah,
at that.
that was yeah, it's kind of a way for me to. I'm very creative, very, very, very creative, and I get to pour that into my business, but also like artistic side, like modeling is a great way to express yourself, but also like to push the boundaries of what people will consume as normal because it is art. It is creative. You know, like I'm sure you've seen the artwork. It's like a banana on the wall with a piece of tape, and right, and
Yeah,
it's like,
I have a
you know,
quarrel with that one.
so or like, I don't know, there's like a white canvas and there's like a black dot, right? It's like, yes, theoretically, a 4-year-old child could do that, probably better than the artist, but then that's not the point. And so, like, when I would do some shoots, I would be the one either making my own clothes, creating the concept, and then it's like trying to figure out what do I want to do, like, because it's like when you're modeling, and I don't know if that's what you experienced when you did it, but you as the model, though you are the subject of the picture, you are not the most important. It's like you're there to showcase the clothes, you're there to show an experience, but you're really there to bring to life the vision of the artist, and that is your sole purpose. And that's like putting yourself last and putting the other person first. And so, like, yeah, like I remember sometimes I would be doing positions and it's like, I feel like I'm doing something so silly. Like, I don't know, I'm holding my hand up to my head and all crooked, like, like chicken leg style. And I'm like, this can't be pretty. But then their angle and the way that they view and the lighting and everything, I come out and I'm like, wow, like that's insane. So you gotta kind of trust the process. But yeah, it's like, it's not about you. It's about pushing yourself out there to create an emotion, sell a product or whatever it is. So yeah.
Yeah, it's always interesting, especially when you see like like France seems to do it the most unique, I'll say. But when you approach it in that way, it is very much an art, and it gets you thinking. And if you're not even entertaining the thought process, then you've already lost the art. Like you have to, like I remember being in Manhattan, and I walked into an art gallery, and what's the type of art that's called? I speak 2 languages, so bear with me. That it looks like let's say a bunch of cans, but then it has a
Uh,
different look. But they use like
it's not abstract, but like,
yeah, kind
yeah,
of. We'll use abstract. I
yeah,
think that's what I was going
yeah.
with. It's abstract art. So like what I may view in this, someone else may view completely different, and it's the
Mhm.
same thing on the wall. So, but that's with everything in life. How do we approach? We approach everything in lenses.
Yeah.
Already starting deep. I like it. That means this conversation is gonna go far.
I love it.
One thing I like to do before we get into the weeds, right? You in that introduction, ITF Taekwondo, 6th-degree black belt, wrote the global harassment policy, first female elected in the USA board, like a lot of accolades. But who is Brigitte before all of that? I want people to kind of get a little background about you, get in the weeds, where you came from, what you grew up doing, and how you got into all of this stuff. Because your story stems from what you told me, 18 years old was kind of when it was the first major roadblock in your life.
Yeah, that's kind of like the catalyst that changed everything. So like growing up, I had like a great childhood. Like I have two brothers and growing up, all my cousins are boys. I was always the only girl in the family until I was 16. And then I had my cousin and she's a girl. Oh, no, sorry, I didn't have my cousin, but like my uncle had my cousin and she's a girl. So then we were now two girls, but I pretty much grew up, 16 years old, I'm already grown up. So I grew up in an environment with the boys kind of thing. And so much so that we have such a strong bond. I feel like they're all my bodyguards kind of thing. So growing up, it was all very, very much family oriented. Obviously you have your family drama within like the kids, like sibling rivalry and all that stuff, but it
Biggest
wasn't ever
rivalry
extreme.
ever.
Yeah. And I think that it was always, for me, it was interesting because I was the middle child, a girl. And so it's like my brothers, like they wouldn't necessarily like, beat me up because they would like try to like, well, I'm a girl, but I don't mind hitting, I'd be the one biting and stuff. I was the one typical middle
That
child.
started her martial arts career.
Exactly. It started with the teeth. I realized my weapons. I had to register these. No, I'm kidding.
Don't you love that? These hands are registered. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Actually, a funny story. A grandmaster of ours, he helped bring judo into the US because he's from Vietnam. But anyways, one time he was at the airport. He's like, do you have any weapons? And he's like, these are weapons. And we're like, sorry, you don't say this here. It's like, oh God.
You just tell him, bad crowd.
Yeah. He was serious though, like stone face. Like, these are what. And you know what? Pretty sure he probably killed people.
How about I say, he's not wrong, but.
Yeah. But we don't say that here.
Yeah, you got to play into the crowd a little bit.
Yeah. So yeah, growing up, it was always very much family oriented, and I've always been very stubborn. So like, if I set my mind to something, it's happening. And I did pretty much every sport that you can think of. Like my mom was a ballet dancer, so she wanted me to do ballet, but I didn't particularly like enjoy it as much. I think when I was like 5, I was doing it. Progressed to gymnastics for 5 years. I did soccer, track and field. I did basketball for 13 years. I did volleyball for like 6. Swimming, like I did everything. I thoroughly enjoyed staying active. Like that was my thing. And then when in school, I also so you're saying that you're bilingual. I'm actually bilingual as well. French is my first language.
Oh.
So I did my entire education in French all the way up to university.
J'ai pas français un peu joie.
Oui, excellent. Wow, t'as appris ton français où?
That's high school French.
I love it.
Le chat sur la table.
I love it. Well, as you remember that, that's fantastic. Most people don't remember anything that as learned as a second language or third language, I guess.
It's only because the rules very much resemble Spanish, which is my primary language.
Yeah.
There's some things France likes to change up on you, so I get grammar incorrect sometimes, but I can kind of BS French sometimes. But
I get it because I'm learning Spanish. I've been doing Spanish. I did Spanish in high school too, so
look at that. The roles are reversed.
I know. But for me, I'm really actively trying to learn Spanish because a lot of my customers in my market is in like Latin America and they're all speaking Spanish. And it's like, I was in a meeting and they talk to you, but then they talk to themselves. And I'm like, I want to know what they're saying.
What are you saying?
Yeah. What are you saying?
Spanish and Portuguese is also very similar. So if you can speak Spanish, you can speak with someone who speaks Portuguese. You may miss some things, but I do it all the time. And I'm like, Spanish? And they're like, no, but go. And we'll start talking. They're speaking in Portuguese. I'm speaking in Spanish. And somehow we know what's going on.
Yeah. I heard about that, and it's interesting too because have you ever spoken to people from Argentina?
Um, yes, it's very. I want to call it cursive Spanish.
Oh, I love that take. Interesting.
That's probably
Yeah,
wrong,
like,
and they're probably. I hope no one gets offended, but
but it's, I mean, for me learning, like, because I do it on Duolingo, right? And it's very much probably like Spanish. So it's very like, hola, ¿cómo estás? You know, it's like very, but then like I remember like speaking to Argentinians and I'm like, I don't know where the word ends and the new one starts. Like it sounds like it's one long word.
it's
And then
cursive.
also they like mishmash, like there's like the Italian in there, there's like the Portuguese in there, and there's like it's all like mishmash. And I'm like, I'm struggling with one language here. Now you're like throwing in a bunch of I'm like, I don't know. I'm trying. I'm trying my best.
Yeah. Now then, learn Puerto Rican Spanish. That's like
Uh,
the slang of Spanish. That's where I'm from,
like
Puerto Rico, but
what is it like Boricua?
Boricua.
Boricua?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
in every Spanish country in the world, it's coche for most part.
Yeah.
We like to say carro, but you don't roll your R because in Puerto Rico we like to use our throat. So it's cajo. Where did that come from? No idea. It's just the way it is. Yeah. So anytime there's like a double R in the middle, we won't roll it. We'll just use our throats. Cajo. Why? For a word that we completely made up, I'm sure.
Probably. Well, in French, caho means chaos.
Cars give us chaos, so it makes sense to me. We took it from the French.
There you go. It's all the French fault, it's not the Latin.
Yeah. So yeah, like language, although similar, very different. Which, if we're speaking in metaphor, same thing with martial arts.
Yeah.
Very similar, very different.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
See what I'm
Like
doing
I
there?
say, when people talk to me, they're like, "Oh yeah, like, because we get a lot of people coming up signing up, and they're like, "Well, what's the difference between taekwondo and blah blah, right?" And you're like, it's all kicks and punches, like at the end of the day, right? But like, it's like, where do I start?
Yeah. Yeah. The
It's
history, the culture, the
yeah,
format. Where we start? Yeah. There's a lot
yeah,
to go over when you ask a
yeah.
general question like that.
Yeah, and there's like the answer for the parent, and then there's the answer to another martial artist, and it's there's the historians and stuff like that, and so it's like, um, I don't know.
It's like where jiu-jitsu came from Brazil. It's like actually it didn't, but we just say that in layman's terms.
Yeah, and then Brazil took over it, and they're like, no, it is our identity. Sorry
Yeah,
if I said
yeah.
offended anyone.
No, I got to get Bernardo in here. It is his identity. He speaks Spanish and Portuguese, and not
Ah,
mixed up. He speaks fluent Spanish. I've known this guy forever, and always thought he just knew Portuguese. When I spoke Spanish, I just thought he knew, and then he was like, "No, I actually speak Spanish." And now we only talk in Spanish. He's from Brazil. We just talk in Spanish though.
that's wow, that's crazy. Well, you learn something new every day.
Yeah, I wish I could learn another language.
You can.
It's. I feel like it's so filled. I tried to like get deeper into French, and
Yeah.
I just like reach a wall. And then I was like, I'm gonna get real crazy, right? Because people always confuse me with, they think I can speak Arabic because of my beard. I don't
Ah,
know. So I
yeah.
was like, I'm
And
gonna
have a
learn.
habibi.
Yeah, Habibti, Habibi. So I was like, I'll learn Arabic. Man, talk about learning a new language. Everything is different. Sentence structure, grammar, the way the letters look. There's like symbols, not letters. Like everything is. I was like, this is a lot of wherewithal. But
Yeah, that is very much on a tangent. Actually, it's funny you say that because through Duolingo, there's a bunch of languages, and I was like, let me try Arabic because I remember when I was in grade school, there was a girl that came into the school. She was Arabic and she didn't really know much English. Sorry, much French. So I was like, I'll help you with your French and then just maybe teach me a little bit of Arabic. So she was teaching me a couple things here and there, and so I was like, I remember a couple things, so let me try. And then I wanted the challenge of Spanish, I guess, is an easier language because it's so, like you said, so similar to French. The root word is there, feminine, masculine, the way that you conjugate phrases, verbs, how you structure phrases. It's a very similar. It's almost like I'm cheating, right? And I'm like, let me try something like, I don't recognize anything. Like the pronunciation, I feel because I'm French, I have an easier way of pronouncing Spanish words. Like people will say, like, "Wow, like you have no accent," and it's like I think it's because in French the way that we roll our R's, it's helped me to roll my Spanish R's. But like Arabic, I'm like, I know nothing. It's like everything is foreign. I'm like, I want a challenge. Like I really want to
It's a whole new
feel
world.
like that white belt again, you know? So yeah, I feel you. And it was hard. It's hard.
Did you stop? Because I did.
I did after a while because what happened was there was, I was, because I was doing that, I wasn't doing the Spanish and I was like, there's a big event and I really want to make sure like my brain's top notch. So I like keep focusing on Spanish and haven't gone back.
Well, stay on it. Stay on it. So you grew up surrounded by boys, which probably helps you get into martial arts because you have
Yeah.
to probably defend yourself. Brothers and cousins, they like to show love in a different way. And you were honor student.
Yeah.
Like so
So I graduated high school honors and got a bunch of awards, scholarships. So like I'm actually from Canada. And so the school system is different than in the US. So I'm not too sure like at the end of the day, like we didn't have like a GPA. We had one, but we don't call it that. Um, I remember graduating the way that it is, it's like my average for like my entire 4 years was like 90%. So I was like in the top of the years. And like we went to this, it was a private school that ended up turning public, but the school standard was still of the higher ones. And they were focusing mainly like on science and math. So I was like doing all three sciences, and I loved biology and I loved chemistry really much. I did all calculus and algebra, all of that. And then I did some languages and it was Catholic school. So we did some like religion, stuff like that. So yeah, like it was like tough, but like for me, I loved the challenge and I loved knowing that I could excel at it. Like I worked really hard. Like some people, they're just smart. Like for me, like I had to work. Like I remember I was that student that would go up to this teacher at the end of class and be like, do you have any extra work that I could do so I could practice like my math problems or whatnot? And I would go home and I would just literally do everything over and over and over again so I could understand it. But it paid off.
you
So
asked
yeah,
for
so when
extra
I
homework.
yeah, yeah, I did.
There's always one in the class. No, but that's good. I mean, that shows the effort you were putting in from such a young age. Which
Yeah.
there's adults who haven't even developed that effort yet.
Yeah. But the thing is, it's like what I, at the time, I didn't really know what it was, but now, like, looking back, I was doing it for myself. I wasn't doing it to show off. I honestly like waited for everyone to leave and I'd be kind of going up, not out of like embarrassment or anything, but because it's like I wanted to excel. Like I would see all these other people and I was like, these people are so smart. Like they make it look so easy. Like I have to work for this. But when I would get the results, me being a perfectionist, like I remember, I don't know, like getting one mistake on my test and I was like devastated. I'm like, oh my God, I failed. Like I was that person, right? Which is like, not really good, but it pushed me to understand more, right? And it was like all for myself. Like I know I can do it. I know I have it in me. Next time, keep doing. I know where I went wrong, keep going, keep going, keep going. And that's what kind of like not only just that I did that in classes, I did that in everything that I did, like sports and martial arts. And I guess now I do it in my business as well.
So when did you get into martial arts? Was it during your early years, teens, early adult? Because you're doing
I
great in
got
school. When did the martial arts come in?
Yeah, that came in later. So because I was so heavily in sports, actually funny story, when I was about 8 years old, um, my older brother, had already signed up to do jujitsu, and he ended up getting his black belt in jujitsu. But after he had signed up and he was already kind of, I think, up the ranks or had gone to another, like an actual school, because we were at a community center and they were trying something. So my parents were like, let me sign you guys up since your older brother is doing well. So me and my younger brother started doing it. And I remember it was like a traumatic moment for me, and understanding like how I'm a perfectionist and I'm a high achiever at that time, like at 8 years old. I remember they had done a grading for yellow belt and the entire class was there and pretty much everybody got their rank. They're awarding everybody, they're presenting the name, congratulations, clap. The person walks up, grabs the yellow belt, blah, blah, blah. They forgot me of the whole group, right? And here I was thinking like I did good. I was probably in my head, I thought that I was better than others. Like I'm like, I did good. And I'm the only one that failed, but they've actually forgot me. And so I was devastated. And I remember going back to my parents and I was like super upset because like, people had dispersed and they're like, everyone's congratulations, taking pictures. And I'm just like, I didn't get my yellow belt,
Yeah, what do I
mom.
do?
Yeah, and my little brother, I think, got his belt as well, and I just remember anyway, so right away, we fixed it. They're like, "Oh, we're so sorry. Here's your belt," right? But, like, damage is done, and that really stuck with me. Really stuck with me, so much so that, just I'm doing a lot of, uh, healing, emotional healing, and going back into, like, my trauma and everything like that. That was actually a staple in that kind of said, "I'm not good enough." And that basically, like, stuck with me. So I was like, "I am never doing martial arts ever again, like, that's it." So fast forward when I was about 16 years old, it was about March when all the sports in high school end, and I wanted to keep fit and active during the summer. So I didn't wanna find something that was like a commitment. I just wanted to do something, sign up, and just for a few months, we're good to go until September when everything starts up again. And there was a taekwondo school that opened up really close to where we lived, and we lived in like a little place. Like there wasn't that much, specifically walking distance as a 16-year-old, and I didn't want my mom to be always driving me. And in this taekwondo school, they had a kickboxing program. So I was like, yeah, that seems pretty mindless. I don't wanna do martial arts because I don't wanna, like, invest time learning patterns and, like, theory, all that stuff. So my mom and I went down to do a trial class, and my mom didn't continue. She had an injury that she had from her ballet, so she's like, "I can't do the twisting." But I was like, "Yeah, I'll keep doing it." So I ended up doing it, and the instructor there was like, "You're actually pretty good," like, and I remember in the class doing whatever, and people were the black belts were in the waiting room waiting for to the next class because there was a black belt class after our class. And they were kind of like looking, and I felt so embarrassed. And I was like, "Oh my god, the technique must be horrible. Like they're probably like judging." Me being a perfectionist slash like I just started, calm down. Um, and so yeah, I'm doing, and the instructor's like, "Have you done this before?" I was like, "No." He's like, "You should." And he really tried to get me to do the martial arts. And I was like, "I don't want to do it." Finally, I told him, like, "Look, this is what happened when I was younger. Literally, I have no interest. Plus, I don't want to be committing to this. Like, I'm starting sports again in high school." Um, and then he's like, "Okay, ultimatum. Where there's a fun fair coming up, and they always have a special, and they're like, can you just try? Do like a I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was a 1 month or 3 months, whatever it is. Just try, and if you don't like it, I will never ask you again." And I was like, "That sounds like a good idea,"
Yeah,
because I
that's
was
a win.
pretty like, yeah. So I tried it, and I pretty much that was it. I never stopped. And it was interesting too because like I was the oldest. I was 16, right? And most people start when they're kids. And so I'm in this class with all these beginner class, and there's like, I don't know, like 6-year-old, 7-year-old, and they're like, "All right, right hand punch, other right hand," right? So they're struggling with their right and left. And I'm just like, "Oh my God, like,
Here I
can I
am.
just like," yeah, but I loved it so much that like I just basically continued. So, and then within a year, I think my mom had like done this ultimatum where it's like, "Look, like you can't do that plus volleyball plus basketball." Cause she's like, "I'm driving you all over the place. Plus everything's costing a lot of money." And so she's like, you got to pick what?" And I think secretly she was hoping I would stop taekwondo. And I said, "All right, I'm stopping everything and I'm just doing taekwondo."
How did she
So yeah.
take that? I mean, obviously you're still doing it, so paid off.
Yeah. I think at the time, secretly, she was hoping that I wouldn't. But my parents have always, and this is not just like my parents, it's my whole family, has always been like 400% supportive of me, but us within to each other, right? So like my mom was like, ultimately it's your life and you can do whatever you want. I will be there and I will support you. If you need me a ride, like I will drive you, like that's fine. But you can't help, like, again, like my mom, I think secretly wanted me to be a ballet dancer. And I think that I would have been a really good ballet dancer because I do have a lot of flexibility and, rhythm and stuff like that. But that was her also like her dream. She doesn't know martial arts, right? So it's like for her that's foreign. And I think there's also the element of when you are seeing martial arts from an outside perspective, I think at least back then, now there's a little bit more discussion about that. You think of martial arts as like very rough and fighting. Why would a girl want to get their nose punched? And why would you want to be violent? Right. And so it was kind of like, why would you want to do that? And I was trying to explain, but you don't know. And I remember one year I had gone to nationals to try to make the national team, and it was in Calgary, Canada. So I was born and raised in Ottawa, so like the East Coast, like kind of closer to the New York area, and it was in Calgary, which is like other end of the country. And my parents actually went to see me, and I remember we were sitting outside, like looking into the matches, the sparring matches, and my mom was there, and I was explaining to her fighting, right? I said, like, I know you see this as people hitting each other, but let me help you try to see it as something beautiful. And it's a game. So it's not about the point is to make a point, but the point is also not to get hit. So I'm like, think of it like a game of tag. So, and I was explaining how the people were moving and see how, like they are protected. Like you're not supposed to hit the back of the head. Like you're not supposed to hit below the belt. There are rules, but I'm like trying to look at the way they're moving. And I was trying to kind of make it in alignment with like the ballet. And she was like, yeah, I can see that. And that's kind of like when I think she started seeing the beauty in it. And she was like, okay, you're not just getting beat up. Okay. I'm okay. My girl's okay.
Yeah, my mom never came to any of my MMA fights. Ever. And I don't even think she supported it. It was too scary for her. And mind you, at that time it was a little different than it is now, but I can understand as a mother seeing her baby boy getting beat up in cages is not probably not something she wants to see, but it's interesting how you were able to show her the similarities between ballet and martial arts, because a lot of people, we hear the metaphor all the time. It's like a dance.
Yeah.
And it is. It's just looks a little
capoeira.
different. Yeah. Yeah. That's more like a dance. And you know what I've seen that? You ever seen Karate Combat? There's a lot more capoeira artists coming into that, I feel like.
Yeah, there was an athlete in there, Robbie Lavoie. He's one of our sponsored athletes. He's incredible. He's from Canada. Like his background is karate.
And he utilizes a lot of capoeira?
He doesn't do capoeira. His background is karate. I don't know which one. Like there's like Shotokan. Like I don't know, but I know it's karate.
Yeah. It's interesting to see the different arts come together. I guess that's what UFC tried to do a long time ago, and then it all just gravitated to just free striking and some sort of grappling.
Yeah, well, I guess money speaks louder.
Yes, it does. So you were getting into, you started martial arts, you gave up all the sports, which is essentially, I don't want to speak for you, but like your identity. I feel like you don't just try things to try them. You're very intentional. And like you said, 400% in everything you do. So when you approach things that way, it tends to engulf you and become who you are, and you become it. And then it's my understanding that you kind of went through a big health scare around this same time as well. Mm-hmm. Can you walk us through that? Because I'm interested in, you have an identity, and then when we go through something big like a health scare, it strips us of that. And I would like to know how you kind of navigated that, if you don't mind sharing.
Yeah, no, I think that's probably the most intense yet beautiful part of it. So around March, when I was 18, around March, and I was about to graduate, I kind of like about 2-3 months to go. That entire year, I was kind of sick. Like, I wasn't feeling 100%, but then I'm like thinking, well, I was also like probably like pushing my body to the extremes with all the sports and, like, because I was the captain of the basketball team, I think at the time, volleyball, and then like pushing myself for good grades, all that stuff, right? And in March, I remember going to to my family doctor saying like I'm just always sick, like I just can't shake it off. So she gave me some antibiotics to shake it off, and that pretty much, I mean, I'm like 99.9% sure that's what happened. It pretty much disrupted my internal gut flora. And basically, that's when all the symptoms started happening. I got mono about 2 weeks later because nobody told me about what to do after you do the 10-day course, like try to rebuild your internal flora, yogurts and probiotics or sauerkraut, whatever. Um, so I got mono, got sick again, but I was still pushing myself. And then I remember like getting diarrhea, and it was consistent. And like I'm like, okay, I have a bug, but like no. After 2 weeks, I ended up seeing blood in my stool, and that's when I was like, oh yeah, that's not right. So I told my mom, and my mom, she's like, I know. Like my mom, like FBI agent, she knows everything. I can't hide anything from her.
How they know everything, I have no clue. But
I don't know.
moms will
You
always
said your
have this
daughter.
intuition.
Yeah, well, you said your daughter found pictures on the internet. I'm like, yeah, of course she did. Like, I'm pretty sure she could find like things that were deleted, like that never existed. They're like, yeah,
It's a
this is
girl
the proof.
thing. Best investigators.
Yeah,
Best
yeah.
investigators.
We have a hunch, and we kind of really go with it. So yeah. Anyways, my mom was like, yeah, I know. So we went to the doctor, and we did some tests and stuff like that, but I couldn't get an appointment with a actual gastroenterologist until August that year. So I had to basically wait, and that was pretty much the worst summer ever because I was just getting worse and worse and worse to a point that like I literally had to be seconds away from a bathroom or else I would be like basically having an accident. Like I couldn't do anything. And it was just to a point that like I'd be sitting watching television. And if I would just move, because like, you get a sore, whatever it is, it's like go to the bathroom. And it was like it was immediate and it was getting worse and worse. I was getting more tired. I couldn't do anything. And here it was supposed to be the summer before going to university, like traveling and it's like doing a bunch of stuff, like being cute and all that stuff. And here I was like home the whole time, sick. So that was like a first blow. But when I finally went to see that gastroenterologist, he scared the crap out of me. Like he was like, don't worry, we're going to cut you all up. We're going to open you up and figure out what's going on. And I was like, excuse you? And then they're like a massive scar, because that's how they used to do it. They would cut you up with a massive scar. Saying that to like 18-year-old who's like, obviously I'm still vain at that time, where I'm like, I want to be in a bikini. I look good, cute. And you're going to chop me up? Got scared.
Even using that terminology, it's like, do you want to scare me?
Yeah.
Because it's working.
Yeah. It was like, but yeah, obviously no tact, but, and I remember, and I don't know if maybe because I was a young patient, like most people will get gastroenterology, like in issues when they're older. So it's kind of like, oh, well, okay, it's not that big of a deal. I've already had my moment, but here I am like 18 years old. Like I'm young, I have like, the world is my oyster and I have many dreams and stuff like that. And this is not part of my dream. So, my mom, who had a lot of knowledge, again, my mom, my grandfather on my mom's side was a doctor. So he kind of knew a lot of the community. And my mom's best friend was also a doctor. She had her own practice. So my mom kind of just went in and she's like, all right, let me do my own research. And she ended up finding a really good, with the help of my grandmother, the best gastroenterologist in the city. And we went to see him. And within like that same appointment, he diagnosed me with ulcerative colitis. And he's like, yeah, I'm like very sure that that's what you have. Unfortunately, he was retiring, so I couldn't really stay with him, but I was doing a bunch of like medication and started out and stuff like that. And so that was like basically the start of it. So finally getting some sort of an answer as to what it was good, because I kind of had an idea of how to go move forward with this. But also I was like, oh, this is what I have. Like, oh my God. And we're talking about like 20 years ago. The information out there was not as public or as much as it is now, especially as an 18-year-old, like talking to other people that I have diarrhea. Like I'm not going to talk about that. That's embarrassing.
Yeah. Yeah, and then the information isn't accessible, right? We don't have, not that you should get your medical information from Google, but you can't just open up a computer and start to do your own research and find tabloids and research, and you had to go to a library. What are those things?
Yeah.
What are those?
Yeah, I know. But even then, what was in the library were selected pieces that were selected for publication. So if you want to get the real stuff, it's like you had to be a doctor.
And to know
So my
someone, yeah.
parent, exactly. So my mom knew that circle. So we ended up getting a lot of information. We were able to get the ins, like talking to the nurses, because the nurses all talk to each other, right? And so they all know like who's a good doctor, who's not a good doctor, who who has a reputation of, example, like keeping the body open as long as possible because they want to go in there, who's really in and out, who's super precision, who's an asshole, who's like, and so they tell you a bunch of stuff and they're like, so then we had the back end information. We could be like, yeah, no, 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 no. Okay, cool. We're going to go with this one. And we were able to like navigate through who we really wanted to get. Um, but yeah, so basically through 3 years of trying so many different things, like medication, I was trying everything. And it would work in the beginning, but then it would just stop. And I tried. I tried even experimental drugs. We imported some experimental drug from Germany. We got permission to do that. Didn't work. Really did a lot of different things. And it was like up and down, up and down. And like as I'm going through this, like I'm slowly getting worse. Like I was losing so much weight. Like I was like about 100 pounds at that point, and I'm like 5'6", because I was barely eating, didn't want to eat, and um, couldn't. I had to stop everything. Like I couldn't do any sports. I couldn't go to school. I was trying to go to university at the time. Um, so when I had good times, I could go in. So I ended up completing, I think, like 2 years ish, 2.5 years worth of courses. But it was like, it was up and down. Sometimes I would miss an exam, but I would get permission to do it like a week later because I had a medical situation. I also remember having an opportunity to be like normally like back in the day, I don't know how it is now, but you would be sitting in a massive gymnasium and then everybody had their own individual seat and you're writing by hand an exam. So for me, I was able to be in a separate faculty by myself and have my own cubicle that was right next to the bathroom. Because in the gymnasium, it's like you had to kind of like, take maybe 20 minutes. But then on top of that, now you're losing time for your exam. So they were giving me extra time to do my exam if I needed it, if I needed to go to the bathroom, and like me being so like so I was like, okay, if I went to the bathroom and it took me 20 minutes, I'm just going to add on an extra 20 minutes. But I never actually needed it. But it was like the fact that they were able to accommodate, because like that was a big stress for me as well. Cause I'm like, the high achiever. And it's like, I don't want this disease to be controlling me. I'm still trying to live a normal life, but like I'm being beaten down every part of it's like it's hard. But
And
I
you're
can still
still,
do this.
yeah, and you're still making the decision to push for those things you were originally pushing for, which no one would
Mhm.
blame you if you didn't. There's a lot of people who, I have friends who they're going through health stuff and they're forced to stop their lives to deal with this, and it's putting their personal lives and their ambitions and their dreams on the back burner.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, a lot of people will never get back to those. You
Yeah.
kept pushing through that. How was
Yeah.
that? How was that? You kind of touched on it, uh, where your mindset was, but what kind of got you through those moments of still pushing through? And mind you, at this point, it's not even diagnosed correctly, right? You said
Yeah.
there was like a mishap with the diagnosis.
Yeah. So they originally diagnosed me with ulcerative colitis, which is an irritable bowel disease, right? So there's IBD and IBS, irritable bowel disease, and irritable bowel syndrome. Irritable bowel syndrome is celiac. So like people know as like gluten-free, celiac. But irritable bowel disease, you can either get ulcerative colitis or Crohn's. And then there are the differences between both. But I was told that ulcerative colitis was the best one because Crohn's was the worst, right? And I had been seen by three different doctors, three different specialists, and they had all confirmed that I had ulcerative colitis. But then what we ended up figuring out in the future was that my symptoms showed as ulcerative colitis, but I was reacting to medication as if I had Crohn's. So we were treating ulcerative colitis, but nothing was really working. But then the medication wasn't working because, and it was like so confusing to everybody. But then finally, when we went through the whole procedure, so like I was told also, which contributes to the whole like mental health, was that if I have ulcerative colitis, it is curable. And I'm saying this, I was told this, right? Because I want to be clear on this is not the case, but I was told that I would be, if I would ultimately get my colon and my rectum removed, which is the problem parts, I am cured. I was like, I'm not getting any organs removed because I need them all. And that is like super extensive. Like that's an extreme case. So like I was really pushing to get everything done holistically, not holistically, but like naturally, like let me keep everything that I can as much as I can. And that's why they kept pushing with ulcerative colitis and then nothing worked. And then so I was literally on my deathbed. Like I was sleeping 20 hours a day, forcing myself to get up for at least 4 hours, and it felt like I was exhausted. I was taking insane amounts of medication, like stronger than like cancer patients. So like so strong. Prednisones. Like you're not supposed to take prednisones for a long time. At the time I had been on it for like a year and a half. I was it was horrible. And it to a point that it didn't even work anymore. And they kept upping my dose and dose and dose. I was on, I think, 120 milligrams of it. Insane. Not supposed to. And I was like a tiny little person. So then what they ended up doing is that like they put me in for an emergency surgery that ended up actually saving my life. And they removed my colon and my rectum, and they gave me an ileostomy, which is they took the end of the small intestine, like the ileum, because it's now like not connected. And they, disclaimer, this is going to be disgusting just in case you don't want to hear this, but they basically like made a hole, a slit in my stomach, and they let it through. So then when I went to the bathroom, the food that I would eat would go into my stomach and then it would go into an exterior pouch. And that's how I would go to the bathroom. So, and they did that because they wanted to have my body heal. But that was the first part in the ultimate goal because I was a very good candidate. I was young, otherwise healthy, and just sick with this, that they were going to be making a J pouch. And so a J pouch is when they take your intestine, like the ileum, the last part of the intestine, and they basically like fold it on itself and they recreate a small rectum. And you can do like a J pouch, you can do a W pouch, which is like you're basically like folding it all upon itself to make a bigger rectum or not. So for me, they just made it a small rectum. And then they attached that to, sorry, yeah, to the anus, that muscle, because that was still there. So technically my plumbing is now all reconnected. But because I was so sick, they had to do it in multiple stages, which took 2.5 years. But in the meantime, I had the ileostomy, the exterior pouch. And I remember going through the whole process. Everything was a huge success. And the surgeon that actually did the procedure was from Boston, and he was an expert in his field, and he was doing it through laparoscopy, which is like instead of doing a massive incision down your stomach, you're doing 9 little holes, and they are sticking sticks into your stomach, and it's the robots kind of like doing the. So it's like the healing is much better, less invasive, and less dangerous. But he came up to Ottawa, and he was teaching this technique. And so they actually were recording my entire session. So I don't know if they're still using it nowadays, but I know that that was used in the purpose of helping to learn the students to do this better in Ottawa. And it was a huge success, actually incredible. But then my symptoms came back, and that's when they're like, just kidding. So you actually never had colitis. You have Crohn's. And I was like, that moment was, I felt defeated. I probably, for the first time in my entire life, I felt defeated. And that's pretty big to say because I pushed through, and that I was like, that got me stuck. Like I got hit, through martial arts. You get hit a lot. You get winded, you get some good hits, right? You get some injuries, but that was a hit that like, wow. Yeah.
Yeah. So now I'm very ignorant in all of this. Would the process have been different if Crohn's was diagnosed immediately regarding the all the medical procedures they had to do, or was that a necessity that had to be done regardless to kind of help you in your process to healing?
That's a good question. So that's why I always say I got lucky in my unluckiness. So the main difference between, well, there are lots of differences, but a big difference between ulcerative colitis and Crohn's is that ulcerative colitis will affect the rectum and the colon, and it'll stop at the ileocecal valve. So basically, where the small intestine and the colon meet, that's basically where it stops. Crohn's disease will affect the entire digestive system. So the tongue, esophagus, all the way down to your anus. And so if I would have been diagnosed with Crohn's first, I wouldn't have been a candidate for the J pouch. And to this day, I would still have my ileostomy, which is not like a bad thing, but 18-year-old me, that was devastating. Like living with an exterior pouch, like I can't do martial arts, like I can't get hit. Could you imagine getting hit with my like gut is sticking out? Like I probably would have been back to the hospital, more surgeries, right? So because I was originally diagnosed with ulcerative colitis, I was like a go ahead to get the entire procedure because technically having Crohn's, I could the part that they spent reconstructing, like the J pouch, could still get infected and I could get it removed, right? So that was basically like money spent, wasted in their eyes.
So what ended up being a massive devastation was kind of a little miracle in all of this,
Yeah.
which is interesting. When we go through things, we will never say that, but being on the other side of it, you can look back and go, wow, like it's crazy how that
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah. Yeah, because I remember they would say like, because you have ulcerative colitis, you're a perfect candidate. And they kept saying like that if you have Crohn's, like of course you wouldn't be able to do it because, and so that was also impressed into me. So yeah, like it was a blessing for sure.
And you said you felt defeated. Obviously you went through that and you're doing amazing things now in the industry, in your life. What was the moment that kind of woke you up from defeated to I have to keep pushing forward? Can you walk
hmm
us through that moment? Was there like a moment you can remember, or was it a process? How did that work for you?
So it's like in retrospect, looking back, that I understand what I did, but a lot of it was, I think, just like autopilot. So there's a thing that I like to say, and I don't know who said it, but I always repeat it to myself. And because I've always been a positive person, right? And somebody said positivity or being positive doesn't mean that you're always happy. You just know that better days are coming. And I was like, yes, right. I'm maybe in the shits of it right now. I feel horrible. I feel whatever, whatever, but I'm not going to be here one day. It's going to get better. And so that stuck with me. And I remember that specific day of being misdiagnosed. I had gone to the emergency room to see my specialist because I had severe arthritis. I could barely move. Yeah, barely move. I was crawling in my apartment because I was in so much pain. And I had these like red bumps all over my body that looked like mosquito bites, but like three times of what it was. And those were like insanely painful. And that is also very much Crohn's. So went to the emergency room. It was on my birthday. So even so of a landmark. My mom drove me, and I remember being in the exam room, sitting there, and the doctor comes in, and he's like, "All right, so just so you know, bad news, you've been misdiagnosed. You actually have Crohn's." And that was like, ah, because all I could think of was everything that I've done was for nothing. Every I could imagine like the wild roller coaster of getting better, being hopeful, just kidding. Now it's like super bad. Now we're getting a little bit better. We're, oh, okay, great. No, just kidding. Now we're getting worse. And it's like that wild roller coaster of like keeping positive, keeping positive. And it's like, here I am defeated. Like, just kidding. You thought you were getting better. I told you were cured. Like, you're good to go. You can go back to living your normal life and be like the person that you thought you could be. But no, you can't. You're going to be back to that sick child. And that's what you're going to be because that's what you're meant to be. And it's like we're doing it all over again. And it's going to be forever because it's incurable. And that was like, boom. And I walked out into the waiting room because my mom was there and I had to tell her. And I was like, fighting so hard to not cry, like trying to tell my mom, like, so, shaky voice, mom, and she was very sad. And then she drove me back to my apartment. And I remember like walking in the apartment, shutting the door behind me, taking a couple steps, and my knees just buckled. And I just like dropped to the floor and I just cried like I've never cried in my life. Like, I don't even know where this water was coming from. I was probably severely dehydrated after that. Just crying and like ugly crying, like sobbing, like, and it was, I think, just years of emotions of like trying to stay strong for everyone around me because everybody knew who I was. And here I am, somebody that like, this is not Bridget. Like, this is a disease that's killing her. And they felt sad, they felt bad, and I was trying to be like, no, it's okay. I was trying to stay strong for them, but also I guess for myself as well, saying like, it's going to be okay because one day it'll be better. Today is better. Like, we are doing good. I am cured. No, no, no. And it was like that, like train, like boom. And I just let it cry. It felt like I was there for hours, but it was maybe like, minutes. But I let it run through me, like everything, until I just had nothing left in me to cry. And I just remember stopping, wiping my tears. I got up and I kind of just did a little shake off and I was like, all right, let's do this. Like, we're moving forward. And I remember somebody was telling me that was a very big moment. I didn't know it was, but that was a moment where I could have gone one of two ways. One, accept my fate and be like, I was meant to be a victim and I will be living this sick person. And I'm saying this in my perspective. This is not judging anyone at all, whatever, right? But this is like my own, like, I could have accepted the disease and saying, all right, then I am meant to be sick. I am meant to be living this life that I've tried to avoid, but this is my fate. Or I don't identify with this. I will push through and I'm going to find a way. And I decided to go that way. And somebody was like, that was a huge moment in deciding that I was wanting to live my best life in terms of my true potential to be what I am meant to be. And it was done like, I don't know, like naturally, but I was just like, all right, let's do this.
I just want to take a second to shout out a few companies who believed in me. These were one of our first official sponsors, so huge shout out. Today's episode is proudly sponsored by Carbo Jewelers, established in 1997 on the values of honesty and integrity. Whether you're searching for the perfect piece, need expert repair services, visit Carbo Jewelers in Newark's Ironbound District, where your jewelry is always in safe hands. This episode is also brought to you by Continental Jewelers, proudly serving Hudson County, New Jersey since 1964. Whether you're seeking a timeless piece or need expert repairs, they've got you covered. Visit Continental Jewelers, your trusted source for all things jewelry. You can find them on Instagram at Carbo Jewelers or online at carbojewelers.com. Lastly, big shout out to Carbo Trading. Besides coins, precious metals, and jewelry, if it could be traded and collected, he's probably got it. They can be found on Instagram at carbo.trading. You can find all of our sponsors out online on our sponsor page at therelentlessproject.com. Yeah, and that's something, I have these conversations, with family, friends, And not to be insensitive, because you had every excuse to accept what was happening, because there's nothing, essentially, you're told there's nothing you can do about it.
Mm-hmm.
So when we're faced with that, like, how do we approach that as people, whether it be a medical diagnosis, whether it be a decision at work, whatever major thing that happened to you, it's happened, right? We have to accept it. We can choose not to agree with it, whatever, but we have to accept what has happened. And now what? Do you accept it and lay down, or do you accept it and push forward, and whatever that may be? Having conversations, and I have these conversations with people dealing with substance abuses, and they take on that identity, and it's this. Well, this is me now. I'm like, yeah, it is you now, but it doesn't have to be you tomorrow, or you next week, or you next year. Like, what are you gonna do about it? You can accept the identity and lie down, sure, or you can accept the identity and do something about it. And your story, I think, can reflect with a lot of people, not just going through health issues, but going through anything that they have accepted this identity that they don't agree with, but they've accepted it. So now now what?
That's why you have to be careful, because I was talking to people, and somebody specifically was saying, as soon as you take on an identity, it is very difficult to distance yourself from it. And I accepted that Crohn's was a part of me. That was not a denial thing. I accepted it, that was going to be there forever, but I didn't identify with it.
Good
I
point.
said, I know that it's going to be there. I will work with it. I will manage it. I will not let it dictate how I live my life. And maybe today it's going to win, but tomorrow is another opportunity, and I will push through. I will learn this disease. I will learn my body. I will learn, and like the positivity where it's like better days are coming. And that was my mindset. To this day, I have never identified with my disease.
It's a good point.
But I was never in denial of it.
No, that's a good point. And so in doing that, it allowed you to start taking steps to start mitigating and changing that outcome. One being implementing a completely different diet, right? That was one of the things you did. What are some of the things you started to do to accept, hey, this is a small part of me, but it's not going to be who I am? And then you start doing these decisions. What are some of the things you started enacting that kind of helped you mentally and physically?
So, yeah, that's good. So basically, from the moment that I decided, like from that moment in my apartment, I was still, I'm going to say the word naive, but I have to be very careful. I was still very much, had confidence in the Western medicine, that they could find a cure, right? Even though it was incurable, I thought there is a cure, there is a way, right? And so I still followed what they were recommending me to do. And after that, I ended up getting married, and I moved to California, which is where I live now. So I had a whole new medical team. So I also thought, great, California, they have more advanced stuff. Like, I'm gonna find a cure. This is great. Tried everything. Nothing was working. I was actually slowly getting worse and worse. And I remember one day being in my bed at night thinking, how is it that I'm doing everything I can? Because I would go to the doctors and be like, what else can I do? Like, what else is there? And they're like, well, you're doing, of all of our patients, like, you're better than everyone. Not that it's a competition, but it was just kind of illustrating that there was nothing for them to offer me. And I was still living a very good life, but my symptoms, I had new symptoms coming up, and I was like, why is it that I'm doing everything I should be doing, but I'm still getting worse? And I remember thinking, that was the day that I'm like, that's it. I am taking matters into my own hands, and I'm going to do things my way. And now thinking back, I was like, who was I to have the balls to say, I will go against the entire medical industry wheel and think I know better than them for myself? Like, that was pretty ballsy, but obviously it paid off.
I would say, look what happened.
But that's the thing. And I remember at the time I had it kind of clicked into my brain. I had a book in my drawer that was called Breaking the Vicious Cycle by Elaine Gottschall, and it was explaining the specific carbohydrate diet at the time, specifically helping people with autoimmune, like Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, but it's also helping people with Alzheimer's and um, people have epilepsy and stuff like that. And nowadays, we also know that the gut is the second brain, so it's all kind of linked. But at the time, like, it wasn't really talked about. And so this book talks about the diet. It explains what it is, why it's good, and why it helps. And it's, I guess it could be considered an extreme diet because you're removing gluten, starch, sugar, lactose, soy. And then for me specifically, I also take the beef, the corn, and fried foods. And so you're kind of left like, well, what is there to eat? Like salad? Um, and so, but once you understand, basically the specific carbohydrate diet is you're trying to remove the element of digestion, where you're wanting to eat simple molecules so your body can immediately absorb it. And so anything that has a compound molecule, we don't consume. So that way it's much easier for your system that's currently inflamed to not continue with the inflammation. Because like when you have food that you can't digest, that's when you get gas and bloating and stuff like that. But when it's like if you do it once in a while, whatever. But if you're doing it continuously, that's when the inflammation starts. And then that's when like it can develop into disease and stuff like that. And so when you already have a very sick digestive system, removing that element, then it allows your body to heal. And then when you can heal, then you can absorb the nutrients and vitamins that your body desperately needs in order to function and heal. And it's a kind of vicious cycle. So once you understand what the diet is, that helped a lot, I have to say. It was like a huge marker and I did it cold turkey, and I wouldn't recommend it. I would definitely recommend like reading a little bit more, but that's the kind of mindset that I have where I'm like, what I was saying earlier, like when I set my mind on something, it's like, just politely get out of my way because I will walk through you. Like I'm doing this. And so I was like, I'm doing this diet, done. And so I started it cold turkey, did it, and I've been doing it ever since. I've been doing it for like 13 years now, and it took some learning, like because it's difficult because it's different, right? It doesn't mean that it is particularly difficult. It's just different. And I think that the biggest problem that people have in change generally, but also accepting a new diet, it's not necessarily like looking on the positive, like I'll feel better, I'll feel stronger, whatever. It's what you're going to lose, right? When the reason why people are afraid of change is because they're afraid of what they'll lose out of the change. And, people will say, well, I can't have ice cream anymore. It's like, oh, I can't have, like my fried food or whatever, right? But the thing is, like, once you understand what the diet does to your body and how it's so beneficial, that donut or that ice cream is not even an option. Like, I don't even consider that as an option for eating. It's like, when you're talking to people, when people are on a diet, that's what the big problem is, right? It's like, oh, I can't have that donut. I really want that donut, but I can't have it because I'm going to die. I need to lose weight, whatever, right? But it's like, for me, it's like, I never wanted it. Like, it's not even part of my vocabulary. And so that's a mindset change, and that will lead to the success. But if I was still in the success, the mindset of like, well, I can't have my ice cream, or I can't have this, or can't have that, then it's like I would be resenting it, and therefore wouldn't be giving it a chance to actually succeed. So that diet was really the start of me taking control of my healing process, and that kind of helped me to be curious, keep questioning, keep pushing, keep doing, right? And so starting doing a lot of holistic things, talking to a lot of different people. Yeah.
Yeah, when you made those non-negotiables essentially. And it's, I'm not going to negotiate with ice cream and fried chicken, to use very simple
Mhm.
comparisons. And, it's interesting when someone, because people come to me, they want to make lifestyle changes. I have a podcast. They think I have all the answers. And it's like, I don't have the answers. I talk to people who have gone through things and made it on to the other side. Like, these are the people with the answers. They've gone through it. They've lived it.
Yeah.
I just ingest, no pun intended, all these stories. And then, I try to use these. And I hope when people are listening, they're doing this themselves and taking the stories of people and applying it to their lives and seeing what works and what doesn't. But it's interesting to me when someone says, I want to X, let's say, I want to get healthier and go to the gym. And then my next question is, I want to get fit. My next question is, okay, you got to start going to the gym. Okay, well, I don't have time. I'm like, okay, well, can you do an hour every other day? No. Okay, what can you do? I don't know, 15 minutes. I'm like, well, I don't know how to help you then. If the first thing if you're not willing to make the change of allocating X amount of time every day or every few days to do the thing that's going to get you there, you're already looking for an excuse for a way out, right? If you come to me and you're like, I'm allocating an hour a day every day, we can work with that. But when your first response is, I can't do that. Well, I can't do that. Well, I can't do that. I was like, okay, why don't you tell me what you can do? I don't know. That's why I'm here. It's a mindset issue.
Yeah.
It's like you want to change, you have to give something up. We all have 24 hours a day. Some of us, most of us, are giving up something to approach a dream, to approach a goal. I just wrote a podcast about this. When you are striving for something, you are sacrificing something. Is what you're striving for worth what you're sacrificing? And this works on the other way. And we'll use substance abuse. You're overindulging in alcohol consumption and it's causing issues in your life that's causing you to sacrifice your family and your job. Mm-hmm. Is this drink worth those sacrifices? No, something has to change, right? You can't hold your children and walk up the stairs without being in pain and being out of breath. Is your diet worth not being able to hold your children? No, you need to start changing something. In your case, this diet, you were losing, these bad symptoms you were having. That's a great sacrifice, right? But if you're not entertaining that and you're eating whatever you want and you're having these symptoms, it's like, is your feeling this way worth just you eating whatever you want to eat? No. So a change has to be made. And I don't even think you went through that process. You just decided this is happening and you did it. But for a lot of us, for a lot of folks, we have to go through this elimination process. So I'm saying this because it's very close to me. I'm dealing with something within my family, and I'm having these conversations, and I'm telling them, like, you don't want this, so why do you continue to pursue it? And I know this because you're coming to me and you're convicted by it. So make it a non-negotiable. I can't do this anymore. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but it is simple. And you mentioned that, and when you said that, it hit close to home. We say things as hard and we say things as difficult, and we often equate those to be the same. But it's not, right? Eating healthy is simple. It's hard. It's probably going to be the hardest thing you have to do. You have to change a lot of habits. You have to eliminate a lot of foods. But it's fairly simple. Eat these, don't eat these. Simple process. Hard to enact. So your story is resonates a lot, and I know it's obviously different, like health and symptoms to personal choices that people decide to do. But I think we can pull from your experience and what you've gone through and how you approached it, right? And it's not to be insensitive to other people going through things, but like in your case, you don't have a choice. You were diagnosed with this, and it is what it is. There's people listening who can make a choice and change their outcome. Will you?
Yeah. And, looking into that kind of specific situation, and it's not just like my health, it's just generally like people refusing to make changes. You're like, you're the one looking at them and you're like, yeah, but it's so simple. Like all you have to do is blank, right? And the reason why people can't change And it could be, whether it's, addiction of a substance, or it could even be like emotional, like in a relationship, like people can't leave their partner, that their abusive partner, or, just like a diet or something like that. Why is it that you cannot change something that you genuinely know is not doing good for you? And it's because they are operating out of fear. And it's fear of what? And then once you can figure out what that fear is, usually it's fear of loss of something. And sometimes that has to do with a childhood trauma, fear of control. It's like, well, maybe, and I'm just speaking here examples, but like, like I have my own demons, I'm trying to escape the hurt or the pain, so I will consume this, and I feel like I'm in control because of what I'm doing. I won't forget about that, but then obviously, like, maybe that causes other issues in the relationships, and whatever, you're violent, whatever. But it gives you a false sense of control, it gives you a false sense of blank, which is the opposite of the fear, which is what you're trying to protect so hard. So once you can identify what that fear is and work on, no, that's not true. Like, no, I am worthy of love. No, I am worthy of blah, 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 blah. Then you can move on to the next step, which is change. Because we all know that people are not motivated by positivity. They're motivated by negativity, right? It's like, hey, you know what? Like, if you do the diet, you're going to look fantastic. It's like, yeah, that sounds really good. Hey, if you don't do the diet, you will die. You're like, okay, yeah, now it's a do or die. Like, I'm going to change, right? So it's the positivity wasn't good enough for them. The negativity was really what motivates. And the negativity is what people feel they're going to lose. But I read this somewhere and I thought that was so true. Whereas, like, in order to feel to accept your goal, or get your goal, or feel your goal, is you have to temporarily feel or go through the opposite. So if you want to be super knowledgeable in French and you want to learn French, right? You have to temporarily feel like an idiot because you can't pronounce it, you can't remember the words, If you want to be super healthy and like strong, you have to temporarily feel very weak and tired and embarrassed, right? And so if you want to be really rich, you have to temporarily feel like you're broke. You have to save your money. You can't go out. No. You have to make all these kind of stuff like that.
Check.
So,
I'm right there. Oh, I'm on the right path.
yeah, see? There you go.
Temporarily
See?
broke.
So you're going to be rich. You're going to be like up there.
No, that's a good. That's a good way to frame that. Yeah. Most motivation happens when you've lost everything and have nothing left, and then it's like, hey, you knew all these rules and things we had to do, so you didn't get here, and somehow we're here, and now is when you're going to make the change. So it's very interesting. But speaking on that, I want to get into I love the grit and how we got here. Now we got to get to the point where we smashed the glass ceiling. You started a brand between you and your husband, which is fantastic. The Mightyfist. Right? Mightyfist?
Yeah, Mightyfist. One word.
One word.
Autocorrect will always separate in two.
Yeah. The dang autocorrect.
Yeah.
So you're going through all this stuff. You find this you take ownership of your health, your diet. You put it in your hands, and while you're managing all this, because why stop there? Why stop? You started an amazing brand, the Mightyfist, where you saw a gap in the market, revolutionizing. And I try to do my own research, and so I apologize if it's not as it is, but revolutionizing the ITF Taekwondo industry. And you mentioned earlier you're starting to do it in karate as well.
Yeah.
So you're just expanding through all the martial arts. What does it actually take to disrupt a deeply traditional industry, especially like Taekwondo and karate, where it's very heavily rooted in tradition and culture? And then here you come shaking things up. How was that? And what was the motivation behind it?
So Oh, that's a good question. We didn't set up to do that specifically. Like that wasn't the number one goal. It was kind of done by accident. And like the Mightyfist brand, so my husband and I, so Mightyfist is the name of our school, and it also is the name of our brand. And so we started it with my husband and I, Jason and I, but now my brother-in-law who lives in Europe, he's also now the taking care of the Europe kind of thing. So we're doing it together. But it really started out because at the time, my husband had been doing martial arts longer than I have. And so we had both our own experience in martial arts. And we were both basically saying that out of the uniforms that we wear, because in Taekwondo and ITF Taekwondo, it's different in the sense that we only have one uniform. Like I know that in karate, you can wear different types of uniforms, gis based on what you're doing, sparring and katas and like, whatever. But like I know in ITF Taekwondo, we have one uniform and you wear it for like everything. And we out of the in the market what was available, we liked features of all the things of all the products, but there wasn't one uniform that had like it all. And so we're like, well, why can't we just create one uniform that has it all? Like how simple could it be, right? How many times have people started something because of that one little sentence? Like how hard could it be? And so at the time, my husband had a really big school. So he was already importing the color belt uniforms because he was going through them quite a bit. But when it came to the black belt uniforms, we wanted something a little bit more like fancier kind of thing. And so we already had the knowledge on uh, importing and dealing with factories and stuff like that. So that's when we kind of started embarking on that journey of finding the perfect uniform. So it had a combination of the different cut, like a specific cut and a fabric and, like features, sewn versus Velcro versus blah, 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 blah. And we came up with this uniform, and the fabric itself was really kind of what changed everything. At the time, my husband and I were both on the US team. And so we got an opportunity to sponsor the US team to go to the World Championships that year. That was in 2013. It was in Spain, Benidorm. Because we reached a global organization because again, like we know a lot of people in an organization. Like we were board members or we know people. So we contacted the global organization saying, can we be a supplier for within the US? We got approved. So that way we were able to sponsor the US team. So for the first time, the US team was wearing our uniform. And it was so surreal to see people wearing our product. But I will always remember all the US team was out there wearing our uniform. And so many people were going up to the uniform and they were kind of like, looking around and like, oh, sorry, like I'm just kind of looking. Everybody was so curious. It was like it was a fabric that nobody had seen before, and that's basically where it exploded. Everybody, the brand really took off. People were wanting to be a part of it, and we wanted to get into this just to kind of meet our own demand. Like we wanted a uniform that was good for everything, like a one all. And it seemed like it resonated with everybody else. And that's when people were like, great, now can you do sparring gear? We're like, oh, okay. And then, oh, great, can you do bags? Oh, okay. Belts. And then for the next few years, we were just basically chasing our tails, trying to meet the demand of the brand growing, and the brand really grew. But it was really that fabric because it was extremely lightweight, breathable. The cut of it was engineered in a way that you could have free mobility, no restriction, because Taekwondo is all about kicks, and so it's all about really being able to reach your opponent without having your fabric restrict you. And and then it was it washed well, and then the cut of it, but also the features, the embroidery work was really good. So it's like we basically nailed everything on that uniform, and everybody seemed to be very responsive of that, like this is what we want. But then the other side of it was, because we were martial artists and we were in it, we knew a lot of people already. And so it's in our best interest, but it's also who we are generally, to just give good customer service, because we were ordering from other brands. We know how shitty they would treat us. And so like, well, if I would be wanting to supply to myself, this is what I would like to have. And so we were able to do that and offer that to others. And so I think it was like, it wasn't just about the product, it was about the service, and kind of like, yeah, the brand grew that way.
Well, first, congratulations. That is awesome.
Thank you.
And I love when stories start like that. It's like, well, that wasn't our goal. This was our goal. And then it turns into all this. Well, it's like, it says a lot. It says a testament to not
Yeah.
only the people running the organization, but the product and service you provide. It blows my mind when not, because I'm a big marketing guy, relationships, marketing, branding. When I reach out to an organization or something and they're just rude, like blatantly rude. It's like, bro, I'm asking you a question. You have it on your website. This is where to ask the question. Why do you seem upset that I asked the question?
Yeah. Sorry if I'm bothering you today.
Yeah, like, am
doing
I
your
bothering
job.
you? Should I go somewhere else? I apologize. And I never understood that. And if your goal is to sell something, you can have the best product in the world. If you're just nasty and rude, like, I don't want to deal with you. And you being in the business world, I'm sure you understand a lot of business is done via relationship. Like, if you have a great relationship with someone and there's two products that are comparatively the same, I'm going to go with the person I have a relationship with. And I'm not spilling any secrets. So if you're a big organization and your customer service sucks, you should fix that. That's my public service announcement. But yeah, awesome to hear. I was kind of looking at your guys' stuff and I was like, wow. And the fact that, like, the way we came to meet each other, I'm super humbled, because I was like, this is someone I would reach out to 100%. I just never came across your stuff until I did. And I'm like, yay. Like, and you're like, hey, I want to come on. Like, let's do it. So I'm very humbled.
Absolutely.
I'm excited for what the brand is going to, I'm sure you're only getting started. So what the brand is going to turn into. What's your goals for that?
I remember saying, like, right from the beginning, like day one, and it was kind of like a joke, as we were starting to grow internationally. I started to say it as a joke, but now I'm realizing, like, no, I think those words were put into my mouth by a higher self. Whereas, like, I'm taking over the world one uniform at a time, right? So like, because our product, that uniform, that fabric is unlike anything you've ever experienced. And until you actually put it on, you don't know what I'm talking about. And I'm saying this from just countless interactions of people that I have with, like, so much so that, like, I remember I was in Italy at the time for one of the world championships, and there was this person from Australia that had come, and it was in 2015. So it was still new, like, because we're still trying to spread the word and get awareness. People had already known who we were, but not everybody has our uniform. And so this guy came over and he's like, oh, like, asking me about the product, and I'm talking about, and he wasn't really sure. And he's like, well, can I just buy the pants? And I said, no, we only sell them as a set, because at the time that's what we did, right? Because also you're at an event. I don't want to be breaking up a set, because then that's potentially making me lose a full sale, right? And I want to be making money because I have an overhead of, expenses to be here. And so I looked him dead in the eye and I said, but this is what I'm going to do for you, because I'm so confident about how you're going to love this product. I'm going to sell you only the pants right now, and you're going to train in them right now, right today. Tomorrow, you will come back and buy the jacket, because you're going to want to complete the set, because that's how much you're looking to love it. And he kind of looked at me like, yeah, that's a pretty bold statement. I'm like, yeah, but I 100% back it. And I can tell you exactly that's what's going to happen. He's like, all right. So he bought the pants. I put the jacket to the side. And sure enough, the next day, he's like, yeah, I'm going to buy the jacket. I'm like, I told you.
Yeah, we'll post a note on it. We'll be back.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's how it happens. So when you're used to wearing something, you're so set on, like, that's what it is. And you get used to the crap of it, right? So, like, it's like if you have a back pain, you're like, yeah, I'm going to have to, like, limp or whatever, right? So you get used to the fabric, and you're like, or the uniform or the gloves or whatever it is. And you're like, I guess this is just the way it is. So when people see our fabric, they touch it and they're like, oh, this is cool. Like, I've never seen this before. They're very intrigued. And then they put it on and they're like, oh, this is nice, right? And then they go and put their old thing on, and that's when they go, I can't wear this anymore. And this is every single time. And so when I get people to try it on, when I go to these events, especially like in the karate industry where I'm now starting to get more, I'm newer in this industry. Um, that's how it is. People come, they try it on, and they buy it. So much so that people come back in that same day, or if it's like a week long event, they'll come back and buy another color. They'll buy another pants, and they'll buy it because they're like, wow, this is amazing.
So it's a gi, correct?
So it's a, yeah. So speaking of like difference between martial arts, so gi is the Japanese version of saying it, right? So like in Taekwondo, it's Korean. So we say dobok, which is what our website is, DOBOK. So yeah, but uniform, the dobok, the uniform, which is like the white uniform. But the fabric, we could do different colors.
So could I get a dubak and use it for jiu-jitsu?
Yeah.
Oh,
so we currently,
I'm taking
yes.
I'm going to order
So
one.
like, yeah, I mean, we currently, you can buy just the sparring pants. Like we call them sparring pants because a lot of people just like to kick, warm up, whatever it is, so that you can buy just the pants themselves. And then, but you can get like a whole custom jacket or the top or whatever you want to call it with the bottom. But yeah, you can just get, yeah, I'll send you a pair so you can
black
try it
and
out.
gold. That's going to be I'm going to get a custom set, a Relentless.
Awesome. Yeah. Oh my God. Yes. Okay.
We're branding now.
We'll talk after this.
Yes,
yeah,
we
we'll
will.
talk after this.
We'll talk business because we have a relationship. Listen, people, develop relationships if you want business.
Yes.
So not only do you have Mightyfist, not only do you have an amazing testament, but you were the first woman and youngest member at 27 elected to the ITF USA Board of Directors, which in the martial arts industry is pretty impressive. An industry that's dominated by males and male egos. We all know how fragile that can be. You didn't let any of that stop you. How do you approach this industry? Did you experience any of that? Because when I have some of the ladies on and they talk about their experience, it kind of makes me a little irritated as a male in this industry because I have it very lucky. The gym we go to, we're like a family. Obviously, that's not the case everywhere. So what was your experience like coming up in this industry and then being elected the first female ITF USA on the USA Board of Directors? Like, that's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, like you said, now looking back, like at 27, specifically in martial arts, because it's all about hierarchy, right? Rank and like the seniors, right? So normally people that are on the board are in their 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, right? They're like, they've been doing this for a long time because they feel like they know best, which may not always be the case. So yeah, definitely there was some feathers ruffled. But I think for me specifically, I never saw it as like it was a big deal because I think being surrounded growing up in an environment where it was always with the guys, my friends, I would always have a lot more guy friends than girls. I have to this day my best friend, she's a girl, Shara. I love her to bits. She's like my twin. She's like my adopted sister. My parents adopted her years ago, so it's like, and her family adopted me. Like she's my rock. But everybody else, they're all guys. And so for me, it's like being in an environment with guys has never been, or being the only woman has never really been like an insecurity for me. I just operated. I think for me where I had self-doubt was the fact of the rank. Because when you're brought up in the martial arts industry, it's all about do as I say. Yes, sir. Push-ups. Yes, sir. 3 kicks. Yes, sir. It's like, it's always don't think, do. And so when you're dealing with higher ranks, like when you're hearing like a grandmaster, you're like, oh, like, yes, sir. Like there's a huge amount of respect and you don't want to question it because that's the student to instructor relationship. And it was difficult for me to kind of break out of that because I had always been a student. I never really wanted to be in politics. I feel like politics ruins everything. And I didn't want to be a part of it. I didn't want to know of it. My husband was already on the board. He was already heavily involved in it. And so I guess by like osmosis, I was getting sucked into it before I got elected because he kept talking about certain things and situations and drama and, resolve issues that needed to be addressed, all that stuff. So then when the opportunity came, and it was kind of done very quickly, I was at the right place. And basically they were doing their elections and I got elected in. And I was the only woman there, literally the only woman there. And that was then. And so when I was on the board, I had a thought of like, because everybody was older than me and also higher ranks than me. And so who am I to say something like, what do I say? But afterwards, people would say, I wouldn't talk a lot. I would listen, but I remember they would say, when I said something, it was like matter of fact to the point, and it was like, yeah, let's consider that. Because they said that I would always offer a different perspective on the situation. Whereas like, because like guys have a certain ego, certain mentality, certain way of seeing things, and it's like, this is how we do things. And I would be saying, hey, what about this way? What about considering, oh, I didn't really consider it that way. And I think that also an advantage that I had being the woman is that it makes men be on their best behavior. So normally maybe they would be cursing at each other or they would be acting in a certain way, but because there's a lady there, I will be a little bit better. I will choose to not say those words. I will be more respectful or whatever it is. So I think that kind of also helped to create a different tone in the discussions.
Yeah, there's definitely a dichotomy there. Like, you're not going to start foaming at the mouth and swearing when there's a lady in the room, or you shouldn't anyway. So yeah,
Yeah,
you have to force to use a little, what is it, 2 ounces that's in between your head.
exactly.
No, that's awesome. So how's that experience kind of shaped your approach to training the martial art? Because you get to see the political side, you get to see the kind of overhead of it, but you're also still involved in the training and the mat room, we'll
Mm.
call it. So how does that how does being involved in both sides better your understanding in martial arts and your approach to those who train?
Oh, it really expanded my views and knowledge because it's helped me to see one situation in different views. So like the way that I say it is like I have the luxury of wearing different hats, right? If I can wear the hat of being a student. I take it off. I'm wearing the hat of being an instructor. I take it off. I can be now the hat wearing a board member. I can be a business owner. I can be an instructor, like a school owner. I can be, like member of the women's committee global, so and I'm very like disciplined in the way that I do things because I try to always do what's best. And depending on which hat I'm wearing, I will do what is best for that situation. And sometimes that comes at the detriment of another hat that I wear. So, like, example, being a board member, I have to be careful in how I do things because a lot of it could be conflict of interest when it comes to suppliers. Like if we're trying to vote for who's going to be sponsor of the US team, I have to basically recuse myself because I am also a brand owner that I am applying to be a supplier, right? So it's and I've taken decisions where it was for the best interests of the association's members, but it went against Mightyfist. And I'm also lucky to have a partner like my husband who also understands that because that's what he would do as well. But it's also in everything. So if I know that I'm wearing the instructor hat, but it's maybe going against another hat. It's like I'm focusing on what is best for this situation of that because that to me being fair is of the most important. So to answer your question, it's given me the opportunity to see things in every angle possible. So then at the end of the day when I'm wearing no hats and I'm trying to really like do the pros and the cons, I can see a full spectrum light of the situation so I can try to be making the best decision or understanding people as well, right? It's like, so yeah, I think it was an advantage for sure.
Oh yeah, I mean, you get to like if something like it helps you benefit every single one of the hats you're wearing because you can see it
Hmm.
from multiple angles. So maybe I got to be on the board of podcasts so I can better this.
You're doing fantastic.
Thank you, I appreciate it. In all of this, so also being a board member, you were integral in writing and implementing a harassment policy to protect female members globally. Why was this critical for you to establish?
So, yes, that was a big thing. So the global organization that we were part of, they decided to create committees to kind of really uh, help our members, more directly to specific needs. So we created a women's committee because, maybe in the US, it's not that big of a deal, or maybe even Canada, but there's a lot of countries where women are still suppressed. And we wanted to address that and specifically to protect them. But it's not just women, it's just members, right? Because there are women that harass and abuse men. That happens. Statistically speaking, specifically martial arts, it's the opposite, right? So, um, me being, a woman in a men dominant industry, I've always tried to cater to women, right? Even with my brand, I was able to create a product that was just specific for women, and that really helped me to kind of really fulfill a need that needed to be fulfilled. Like, men, the industry is catering for men, and it's like, women, just fit in it, just kind of like, here's a uniform that's tailored for men, just make it work, kind of thing. Like, so being able to do specific things for women, that was important for me. So going into the global organization and being part of the women's committee, I started as a member and then I became chairperson, and now I'm their advisor. um, it was a way for me to help protect them. Like, I felt like I was like mother hen protecting its babies, because I had heard horrible stories. And to me, it's like, it's just not fair. It's not just. And I wanted to protect them. And me, myself, as a person living in the US, can't physically go to, I don't know, Argentina and help this one lady. So, how is it that I can bring a change starting at the bigger level and then slowly implementation going deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper to help? And it's creating a change. And so we, with the global organization and their attorneys and all that stuff, uh, the harassment policy was approved and put into effect. But it was, for me, it was a big win being able to be a part of that, because it was so important to talk about something that everybody specifically wanted to brush, hide under the carpet, like the pink elephant. And I was like, we will talk about this. And a lot of people didn't like that, specifically men. Um,
No. And the
I remember.
egos were hurt. Not
Oh
the
yeah, because,
egos.
and I remember somebody had come up to me, a guy specifically. Uh, he's like, because I had done a speech, and I said it wasn't an aggressive speech. It was just saying, look, like, harassment is not acceptable. At you, because we were doing a speech to the umpires and the coaches, and saying, you guys are people of authority. If you see something, it's your responsibility to voice or encourage. It's like, it was more of an awareness kind of thing. And this guy came up to me and he's like, I don't understand why you're doing that. Like, you seem to be so negative towards men. And I was like, first of all, I never said the word men. So obviously that hit a chord with him, right? And I was trying to highlight to him, it says, like, well, perhaps in your country it is not something that you are experiencing, but this is a global organization and there are a lot of countries that are experiencing the other, and it's about helping others in creating safe opportunities and safe spaces so people can feel like they can truly be themselves and have a fair chance, an equal chance, I should say, to train, get promoted, without fearing of anything, right?
Well, yeah, I always said if you're offended by something, you should probably look inward because why do you feel so offended? Like if someone came up to me and was like, "Don't harass women," I'd be like, "Okay, like it's a non-negotiable for me." But if you're like,
Yeah.
"Why would you come to me? Why?" It's like, well, bro, easy, settle down. That was a
Yeah,
general statement. Why are you so offended?
exactly. Yeah.
I'm
So, but
just
you
saying.
can't like call them like, there's a political way of doing it because also like depending on which hat I'm
I
wearing, I
suck
can't
at
be like,
politics, so
well, it sounds like you're the problem. It's a you problem, not a me problem.
hypothetically.
Yeah.
As someone who spends a lot of time training on the mats, I know the mindset required to survive. How did the discipline of achieving a 6th-degree black belt prepare you for the brutality of the symptoms you were going through, your health, and corporate business?
Hmm. Oh, you're just like full of good questions.
I do a lot of research. You're
Yeah.
giving me 1 or 2 hours of your time. I do not want to waste it. So
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that. Um, as a martial artist, you would understand specifically as a higher rank, right? When you're in the beginning, your color belt phases, you're still understanding, trying to understand yourself. Um, so as an examiner, I'm gonna answer this question maybe in different ways. So as an examiner, when I have a student coming up testing for their black belt, their second degree, their next rank, right? It doesn't matter what rank it is. They have, maybe this is like a cheat code for people, but I'm sorry if I'm like bursting the bubble, but normally you already know that they are at the level of where they should be, right? Where they're testing at. So if they're a red belt testing to become a black belt, they have demonstrated maybe like 98%, if not 100% of the skill set in order to be a black belt. I'm not going to just give it to them. They have to earn it. Now, the earning has already been done through the past years of pushing through, but the test state is really there as a mental block, and it's a mental state of pushing yourself through it because you are creating a huge mental day for you. Like, oh my God, like I could fail, which is true. You could fail, right? Nothing is guaranteed, but I could not maybe miss out my knowledge. Maybe they're going to ask a question that I don't even know. Maybe I'm going to mess up on my pattern. Maybe, right? And you're creating this fear, this monster of like, I will not perform at my best. But it's not about being the best version of yourself on test day because the instructor has already seen you struggle, has seen you hit your peak and also like hit your rock bottom, right? But you've earned already that degree. So that test state is really to like go push through your mental. And so your body, you've already pushed your body through the limit. We've already been there. We're good. If you mess up on your pattern, I know that you know it. It's just you're mentally not all there. You're stressed, right? So it's about, it's kind of like a mind game with yourself as a student. So understanding that the majority of the problems that we think we have are all in your head, that is the first mental understanding to pushing through, right? Because like once you go through it, you're always like, oh, that wasn't that bad. Like how many times do you say like that was way worse than I thought? Like maybe a handful of times, but normally it's like, oh, that's not bad. I can do it again, right? So that's taught me to, whatever I think I'm going through right now, it's not as bad as I think it is, right? It's kind of like, what story am I telling myself, right? Like psychologists or therapists will kind of say that, like, oh, he said this, and then, it's like, that's not really what happened, but that's the story you're telling yourself. So, what story am I telling myself? What's the reality? And then you kind of realize, okay, what is my skill set? What do I know that I can do for sure? If I have to do 50 push ups, I know I can do 50 push ups. I've done them multiple times, right? I'm good. I can do 55, right? So then you start understanding your actual capabilities. And that will help you on a reasonable way, like reason versus emotion, to really push through, to say, all right, I know my patterns. I know my theory. I know my chokeholds. I know my stuff, whatever it is. Or, I really don't know that. Like I was supposed to study it. I know I didn't do it. So now you're stressing out that you're going to mess up on that part. But then are you taking accountability for not learning it, not doing it perfectly? So then you have to really take accountability for where you would mess up and fail, if that's the case, whatever, or not perform to the standard of your instructor. So it really is kind of like an internal reflection of your mental and also your physical.
You have articulated that better than I could have ever. Because I always tell people, if you can apply a fighter's mindset into business, into your life, you're going to see a lot of growth and a lot of change. Because you're building resilience and discipline. And even the way you explained it of, you could start like, okay, I've studied this. I know this. Like, I know what, like when you're testing to be promoted, you know what they're testing you on. It's no surprise. You've been working on it for years.
Yeah.
So why, when test day comes, do we forget everything? It's like being in school. You're going through, you're learning exactly what's going to be on the test. And then the test comes and somehow you forgot everything. That's not true. We build these fears into ourselves and we instill them into ourselves. And then we start to believe this story, believe this narrative. That's all noise. Just get rid of the noise and go, you know what? I know, I know I've put the work in. I've come, 5 days a week for 2 years or 3 days a week for 2 years. This is what I've been doing. I know the chokes. I know the holds. I know the escapes. I can apply this under pressure because on open mats and rolls, I've been getting stuff, but I've been managing. I've been doing good. I'm going to be fine. Or we throw it out the window and listen to our fears and go, I'm clueless. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to mess up. So what? What are you going to do? When you mess up, what are you going to do? So applying that to your personal life, that promotion at your job doesn't feel so scary. That meeting with your boss doesn't feel so scary, right? So I always tell people, and I wanted to get your mindset on that, and it's very similar to what I try to preach. You just articulated it a lot better than I did.
Thank you.
So we've talked about a lot. We're on an hour and 50 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
We're going to wind it down a little bit, kind of get to some fun questions, just for people to, not that people didn't get to know you through this conversation. I feel people know you better than ever now, but fast questions, no overthinking, quick answers. I'm going to put you on the clock. Fast strikes, fast answers.
Oh God.
Right,
okay. Right. Let me sit right and make sure I'm sitting properly. Yeah. Okay.
What is your absolute favorite go-to technique or strike in Taekwondo?
Sidekick.
Following the SED diet strictly, what is the one forbidden food you miss the most?
Potatoes.
I can agree with you.
I mean, potato. Come on, like,
yeah, I agree.
Potato
I eat
could
potatoes
be
a lot.
anything. Oh, that was
Potatoes and
hard.
steak.
Potatoes.
I don't want to go down that path. You've been doing so good. I don't want you to rebound. What is the best way to shut down a condescending comment in a male-dominated boardroom?
You just. Oh, that's
Got
a
her.
good question.
Yes.
I guess it depends on. I usually repeat what they say so they can hear it back and say, I think you meant, and I ask, like just to clarify, it seemed like you were meaning this way. Can you correct that? So then it gives them an opportunity to change the tone or, really repeat those words. And they usually never repeat those words because they're put on the spot. There are other people around them and that makes them look bad.
That's a good tool. I mean, in any conversation, right? Like you're kind of thrown back by something, repeat it. Maybe they didn't, because a lot of people will think something and the filter's non-existent and it comes out. And then you're like, hold on. I just want to get this right. You said this, and then you'll see their face kind of grim. So they're like, ugh.
Yeah.
It's like, I didn't think
and
you meant
it sounded
that.
like you meant that. Am I catching your vibe? Like, is that what you meant? And then they'll usually just like, oh, and sometimes, because again, dealing with international people, there's a language barrier. So they don't have the knowledge in terms of like the capacity for the words. They didn't say it properly, or, sometimes they're very rude. No, don't want to. Right. And so it's like maybe the language. So yeah, so it gives them an opportunity to correct themselves. And usually they all do.
Besides your own book, what is one book every entrepreneur should read?
Oh, I read this book one time called The Power of Habits. That was, I can't remember the author, but that was kind of like one of the original books. And actually, funny thing is, I didn't like reading books. Like it was just, I couldn't really get into it. And that was one of the first books that I read years ago that was like, ah, and that got me thinking. And now I'm like trying to read like once a book every month or every couple months. But yeah, The Power of Habits, that was a good one.
You need the Mightyfist book club. And just throw them up there.
All right, cool. Let me add it on my list of things to do.
You don't got enough to do.
I know.
Speaking of enough to do, after attacking Crohn's head on and building a global brand, what does the word relentless mean to you?
To move forward. And it could be like, it's, never giving up. It's even more than that. On the days that you feel you have nothing left, just taking like a fraction of a inch forward, moving forward. Because that gives you a positivity boost of saying, I don't know if there's much that I can do right now, but at least I know that I did a little bit. And that could be making a decision, saying, like, I will give myself grace today. I normally get up and do some cleaning and stuff like that. Today, I will get up and I will just have a cup of tea. That is me moving forward. That is giving myself grace. Some days that means I'm powering through it. I'm doing all these things, but like every day is different. Every day energy is different. And, like in business, I always, the mentality that I have when things don't go my way, right? When I'm trying to go in for negotiation or whatever, and the person kind of stops me or says no, or, like the universe is like, we're not doing this today kind of thing. I always tell myself, not today. So it's not a no, it's a not today. So if you tell me, no, I don't want to do this, I'll be like, cool, not today. Let's try it again tomorrow. Let's try again tomorrow. Right. And it's like, I thought I wanted to, I don't know, like get up and go and do the groceries today. And I wake up and I'm in extreme pain, can't do anything. No problem. I'm going to give myself grace, maybe have a cup of tea, and I'm just going to like do that instead. Because that's still moving forward. It's not moving forward to the intent that I originally had, but it's still moving forward. And that mentality of positivity will get you thinking that better days are to come. And it's kind of like that loop. So like,
yeah, we often misdefine relentless, what it means. And most people, me included, back it was put your head down, go through walls. And in reality, that's not what relentless means. It means just continuous push, right? I may be able to push this wall to the next time zone today. Tomorrow, I may be able to nudge it an inch. But the effort is still there, and the mindset of pushing forward is still there. So not going, I can't push the wall, I'm going to lay down here and whatever. It's, no, you're taking an actionable step to something. So I agree with that. In closing, I like to end every episode the same way. I like to call it the relentless mindset. So your story is very unique, very specific to you. But the reality is a lot of people, a lot of listeners, a lot of viewers are going through their story. How can we apply your testament, your story to us as the listener and the viewers? So to the listener right now who has just received a devastating medical diagnosis or life setback and just wants to give up, what is your message to them?
Well, ultimately, like, don't give up, right? But I think that it really comes down to what do you want, right? Your mental capability. Like I say, your brain, your thoughts is your superpower. Like you hear, like, the placebo effect, where you have physical medication making you feel better, right? But it was just a sugar pill. So but that's your mental capacity, your mental power to believe in that is actually helping. And so not only is it good in the positive, but it can also be devastating in the negative, right? So if you genuinely think that this disease, this condition, this diagnosis is the end of the world, then it is. It is the end of the world. That is your belief. Or you could say, okay, I accept it, but I will not let it be my identity, is kind of what we were talking about. Because I mean, you hear of all these incredible stories, paraplegic that are, accomplishing, but look at all the Olympic athletes. Like, they have everything going against them, and they're still accomplishing insane things. Or you could also be, the result of what you think the disease could be to you. And if you believe that it's going to be the end of the world, that is also a possibility. And so, what do you want? Do you want it to be living a life and changing things? And it's also accepting that, like, things are going to be different, right? You can't go back to thinking things are going to be the same. Things are different. But your thoughts, you have the chance and you have the opportunity to change things for the better or for the worse. So if you think that you can do it, you will do it. You will eventually get there. One day at a time, one step at a time, one decision at a time. And so it's like thinking back, what do I want?
If someone listening wants to take absolute ownership of their health and their life starting tomorrow, what is the very first step they need to take?
Okay, well, I have to be careful here. So obviously, have a medical team and, listen to what they say. But with that said, also listen to what your body says, right? You have the opportunity to do your own research. And I'm not talking about like ChatGPT and all that stuff, right? But knowledge is power. And so I remember, when you go to the doctor and they give you a diagnosis, that is their opinion. If you don't like their opinion, go seek another opinion. But they are opinions. And as much as you can find an opinion that aligns with you and therefore you go with it and it could be bad, or you find an opinion that is against what you're wanting, but is also for your best interest. So it's understanding that there are hundreds of thousands of opinions out there. And it is your duty to not only seek that opinion, but it's understanding what that opinion, that knowledge, that information is, and what do you want out of it. So like, if my doctor says, example, like for me, they were like, I don't know, the SCD diet, like they were like at first not encouraging me. They're like, oh, that's a really hard diet to do. I'm like, gee, thanks for the encouragement. But I know that I had done my research. I had been groups. I've spoken to other people. I've done my own research and thinking there's a lot of positivity outweighing what my team is saying. So I will further it. I experienced it myself and I said, I am feeling the benefits. So therefore I will pursue it, continue. And then when I went back to the team, they're like, oh, I see that it's helping. Great. Well, most people don't follow up on it. So congratulations. And so understanding that it's okay to go and seek other opinions or other information, because again, like going through my medical team, asking them, what else can I do? They were saying, I don't know. They're like, you're doing everything that we're asking. I don't know what else you can do. But then I went off and started doing other things. So they're giving me what they know, the capacity of what their knowledge is. And I'm not poo-pooing anybody. I'm not saying anything bad about anybody. They're like tunnel vision learning this, and they're great at saving people, saving lives, but perhaps they're not skilled at curing. Like they bring people up to a certain level of health. I was beyond that, trying to go even more. And it's like, that's not the people I need to talk to. So it's understanding what the limits are and seeking people that can take you to further limits. But you have to be willing to dig and search.
And do the work.
Mm-hmm.
Mightyfist is expanding. The book is out, and you're advocating for health. What does the next chapter look like for you?
This. So, my throat chakra is blocked, and it's come to my knowledge that and understanding that I have to unblock it, and it's because I need to speak my truth. And when it comes to my Crohn's, it's been such a massive part of who I am. I would say up until me starting to talk about it, probably like 90% of people that knew me had no idea that I had Crohn's, that I've been battling my I've kept it to myself because it's my battle, right? But I'm also being told that I need to share my story because what I have done is incredible, but it's not just what I'm doing, it's the mindset that I've also applied in everything else that I do. And so my next chapter is obviously keep continuing what I'm doing, but I'm also embarking on a new chapter, which is opening up and talking about my Crohn's and help in order to help as many people as possible that are struggling, that are going through something similar. And it's not similar in terms of like, maybe they have Crohn's, but it's the same characteristics in terms of struggle, mental struggle, feeling defeated, and all that stuff, because this is where my purpose is. I am meant to help people.
Well, I'm glad you've decided to share your story because obviously the whole reason I started this podcast was to share people's stories. And because I've learned the most, school has taught me a lot, my family, my parents, but I have learned the most through listening to other people's stories and what they've overcome. And it wouldn't be fair for me to say that I didn't get here off the backs of giants like you, giants like other stories I've been fortunate to hear. So I would advocate for you to continue sharing your story because not only can you help yourself, but you're going to help a lot of people. And just, right, because we go through things and when you hear someone, you're like, man, I'm in this position and I don't have it anywhere near as like they do. I have no excuse. That's my personal, testimony, right? Because I grew up boohoo me, inner city kid, no resources, blah, blah, blah. And growing up, I realized there's a lot of people who've had it worse than me. And I've been very blessed and fortunate in the life that I grew up in. But when I talk to people, it's like, man, I feel so bad about what you went through. And it's like, no, I don't, because of these stories I've heard. So keep sharing your story.
It's funny. I heard somebody, they were kind of it was on a podcast or something, and the guy was asking the other person a question. And he says, if the entire world would be writing down on a piece of paper their problems, putting it in a big basket, would you put yours in and pick another one, or would you keep your problems?
I'd probably keep mine.
Yeah. And most people would say I keep mine. And so that was like, doesn't matter what shit I think I'm going through. Not that it's a competition, right?
No, but
I'm
it's
also
good to
grateful for what I'm going through,
Same, because it's built me into the man I am. Now, the easiest question I've probably asked all show. Where can listeners find Boss Lady Brigitte, Shop Mightyfist, and follow you online?
Yes. Okay. So I'm on Instagram, Facebook, which is my name. So Brigitte Morris 1. If you want to check out the brand Mightyfist, our global website is doboks.com. But we do have distributors in different countries. So if there's somebody local, you can always check up to see if there's anybody there. But our Instagram account for Mightyfist is also Mightyfist_. So you could always check that. And then if you want to check my book, so it's basically 20 short stories of moments in my life that has helped me, that I've realized that has helped me to be who I am today. And so that's also available on my website, which is my name, BrigitteMorris.com.
Awesome. And I always end with the same question. I'm sure you've heard it if you've watched the episodes. And I do this intentionally. We've listened to a 2-hour conversation, and now we're going to go back to our days, whatever that may be. And I like to leave people with a 30-second philosophy that they can start applying right now. So if you could summarize your philosophy in about 30 seconds, what would you say?
You have the power to create the reality that you want. Regardless of what the situation that you're in, shitty, good, whatever. If you choose to only see negative, you will only see negative. If you choose to see the positive, you will see the positive, right? It's like the whole red car situation. If somebody talks about red cars, you're on the highway, suddenly all you see is red cars. And so if you choose to be in a positive mindset, understanding that better days are coming, then you can choose to see the positive. It's like, yeah, okay, this happened, horrible. However, I had a really good coffee this morning, best coffee I've ever had in my life. It's going to be fantastic. We're gonna get through it, right? So you have the power to create the reality, the mental reality that you're wanting, therefore translating into the physical reality.
The coffee she had was Relentless Brew. You can find it on my website. No, thank you for sharing that. And thank you I had to give myself a little plug there. But thank you for coming on and sharing your story. I truly appreciate the time you have given me. Go follow her online. Go shop Mightyfist. Go check out her book. This is the one with Brigitte Morris, and we are out. Later. And we just got to hear from Brigitte Morris. Before we get out of here, I have a challenge for you this week. Brigitte hit on something powerful today. Even when you think there are no other options, like you've exhausted everything, you still have one other option. And that's changing your perspective. So your challenge for this week is the perspective pivot. I want you to identify one major obstacle or dead end that's in your life right now. Maybe it's a project at work that's failing, a relationship that is strained, or a fitness plateau. Instead of looking at it as a wall, I want you to force yourself to write down 3 completely different ways to look at that exact same problem. Stop staring at the closed door and start looking for the window. Change your perspective, and you change your options. If you got anything from Brigitte's story, share this episode with one friend who you think would be inspired by this conversation. Follow the Relentless Project on Instagram, X, and YouTube at Relentless PRJCT. Like, share, subscribe, drop a comment, show some love so we could keep bringing you awesome guests with relentless stories. And remember, we don't settle, we don't quit, and we don't wait for permission. Love you all. I'm Ish. This is the Relentless Project, and I will see you on the next one. Later.